From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.
One ball, corner pocket.
Now here's Warchant.com's Maason Smith
And Corey Clark.
Wake up! What is up, everybody? It's Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Coming up on today's show, some latest breaking news ruins the entire program, but we fixed it somehow. Jordan Travis cooks at practice and the Renegade Express. Wake Up Warchant, presented by the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, Tallahassee, Florida. CPTallybar.com is a website, 2475 Appalachia Parkway. Well, that's the physical address, everybody. Daily lunch specials weekdays, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. You know what goes down on Thursdays? Oh, yeah. Cheese steak sandwich, chicken or steak sandwich. You also get a side dish with that for $8.99. Your side dish choices include straight fries, curly fries, onion rings, potato salad, coleslaw, broccoli, side salad, tater tots, or freshly cooked potato chips. Check it out, Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Thumbs up, 5-star rating and review, please. Oh, also, don't forget, bingo night over at the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. 5-star rating and review, please. Thumbs up. Live show tonight, 6 o'clock. It'll be fun. It'll be fun. Come join us. Warchant.com, Ultimate Seminole Sports Source. Subscribe. All right, so we did the entire show, and then the two pieces of news that are kind of important to Florida State fans, right? First off, Pete Thamel, then our guy Ross Dellinger report about the ACC might be close to expanding, not contracting, expanding. And then news of Maason Smith, defensive tackle for LSU, being ruled ineligible for Game 1 against FSU. All this happened after Corey and I recorded the show. So we spring right into action. Corey pulls off the side of the road into a gas station, and then he and I talk for about 10 minutes on all those recent developments. So most of this show deals with a world and a reality in which we didn't know Maason Smith was going to be suspended for the game against Florida State, and that Florida State and the ACC were going to kind of maybe table expansion. Those two things have changed. Corey and I talk about it. Oh, yeah, and one other thing. Timestamps might not be accurate. Are they ever accurate? Hey, be nice, be nice. Maybe a little less accurate. Anyhow, Corey and I, here we go. All right, Corey. Maason Smith suspended, 1-game suspension, improper benefit. He cooperated with the investigation according to reports, but the NCAA still ruled him out for the first game. We don't know exactly what the improper benefit is. I don't think we're really here to litigate that, but just the fact that we end up spending 15 minutes of this show talking about giving LSU its proper due. You know, part of it was having some fear of him, not knowing he's going to be 100%, but just the fact that maybe he gives 10, 12 snaps and wrecks 4 or 5 plays, and who knows how this game plays out. Obviously, a good thing for Florida State. I haven't seen the line tighten up at all, but how does it change your perspective at all maybe about how this game would play out?
Yeah, man, it's a big deal. I mean, Maason Smith, by all accounts, going into last season, was one of the best players on their football team. Now, he got hurt in the second quarter, so we didn't get to see it. And he didn't do a ton as a freshman to know for sure how good this kid is. But by all accounts, he was one of the best guys on the team. And he's also apparently close to fully healthy after the knee injury. So you're talking about perhaps an elite defensive lineman and one of the better players on their defensive front. So yeah, that's a big loss. I mean, I think he was going to play and play a lot. I think, it's probably a little easier sleeping for the Casey Roddicks and Demetri Emanuels, Maurice Smiths, and Jeremiah Byers of the world to know that he's not going to be out there. Because I do think LSU is not Rice. When they get a dude that can play, they know it. And the way they talked about Maason Smith was the way they talked about potential first-round picks in the program's history when they have a lot of them. So I think it's a big deal, man. This is like the equivalent, maybe more so, of losing a Fabian Lovett or a Darrell Jackson or a Braden Fisk. Like this guy might
social
be better
media
than all those guys.
Yeah,
What?
Social media is buzzing with, hey, we lost Darrell Jackson, you lose Maason Smith, we're even. I still don't know. I mean, listen, if he were to be healthy, I totally agree with what you're saying. I don't know how close he is. We'll probably kind of maybe disagree or agree to disagree on that because, he got rolled up on or something earlier in camp last week, and he exited practice. He didn't leave the facility or anything, but I just think there was some mental hurdle there that he hasn't probably totally fully cleared. On August 12th, his defensive coordinator said he's just like anybody else. He's got improvement to be made. I think he would tell you right now that he wants to improve his pad level. At times right now, he's playing high. That doesn't sound like somebody that's, really gassing up this guy to go out there and wreak havoc. But, again, I mean, just him being 6'6", 300, whatever he is, and apparently as quick as a cat, all it needs to take is, in a game of this magnitude, probably, again, 4 or 5 plays where he just disrupts and throws you off schedule in terms of you go from 2nd and 6 to maybe, 3rd and 7, and those sort of situations that can change perhaps the impact of the game. But the line hasn't moved at all. But good thing for Florida State, clearly. Crazy, though, that he gets suspended 1 game, and I guess week 2 they got Grambling, so I guess you can't call your shot when it comes to suspensions, because clearly they would not want to serve in week 1.
Well, no, this is a really big game for LSU, and this, I'm sure he wanted revenge. I'm not that anything happened dirty last year, but he didn't get to play against Florida State last year because he got hurt in the second quarter. So, I just think when you looked at that LSU defense, as we've talked about, we're not all that impressed with it anyway. And now they've lost one of the bell cows, one of the guys that we're really counting on to be a difference maker. Because when you look at that LSU defense, man, they didn't bring in a whole lot that makes you excited. But getting Maason Smith back is a big deal. Getting that linebacker from Oregon State is a big deal. Maybe the corner from Syracuse will end up being a nice player for them. But they were hoping those were going to be impact additions. And now, look, Maason Smith might be all SEC. He might be a first-round pick. He is not going to play in Orlando 2 Sundays from now, which, I'm not predicting that this means Florida State absolutely wins, but it certainly doesn't hurt. No matter how good Maason Smith ended up being, it hurts your depth. Now whoever backs him up has to play more than they probably are accustomed to. And they're a backup that is now going to have to play starter reps against a team that likes to run the ball and has an offensive line that's combined for, I think, 1,100 career starts. So it's not a bad news for Florida State at all.
8 snaps last year against Florida State he played in. As a freshman, he had 4 sacks, 5 TFLs in 9 games. He was first-team preseason All-SEC by the coaches this year. So, again, a huge piece of their puzzle. Not sure just how 100% first-round pick he would have looked in week 1, but you're not going to get any of it, apparently, if you're an LSU fan. So, rather unfortunate for you folks. Also, Corey, I want to get your thoughts on this. It's got a really sexy headline from our guy Ross Dellinger. ACC stands to make $72 million American dollars in additional revenue from ESPN if it expands by 3, sources tell Yahoo Sports. Apparently, Cal and Stanford are like, hey, we'll wait to get our full share. SMU apparently was like, we don't want any money until the GOR runs its course. We'll wait it out. I don't even know how that happens. But ultimately, this goes from $72 million to whittles down to about maybe only a $30 million figure. And then you divide that by however many teams are in this conference still, and Notre Dame counts or not, and you're looking at about $2 million ultimately. So from 72, I think we end up at $2 million. It's a really good story, really compelling. But then, like, literally the last third graph or so, the last third of it's pretty much like, however, it's still not going to be enough money to make everybody happy. Does it impact at all? Florida State's exit has always been, I guess, now dissolving that grant of rights because, the ACC, if they want to litigate this out, you're like, hey, we've made every sort of possible concession to keep you guys around and give you more money, but it's never enough with you guys. So I don't know how this would affect going that route, but ultimately it still sounds like everybody needs to find a new home and 8 teams need to be like, we're out of this thing. Doesn't change your calculus, right?
Yeah, no, not at all. In the ESPN thing, the number, whatever, it's 72 million. I saw 55 million. Like Cal and Stanford are willing to eat some of that money or bypass it to let the other schools have it. Well, look, man, again, 72 million sounds like a lot, or 55 million sounds like a lot until you realize you're dividing it by 14 schools. Yeah. All right, so you're talking about $4 million at most. And like you said, your math is a little more than $2 million. That doesn't get you anywhere close to the stadium, much less in the ballpark of where the SEC and Big Ten are. So, no, it's not. It does nothing, really, honestly. It just doesn't. I guess it's cool that those programs might have a conference, but what could you put? That does not change the calculus, the math at all. Florida State and Clemson still desperately want out.
Yeah, and apparently there'll be one of these phone calls going down today, I guess, with the presidents. There'll be a separate call with the athletic directors. I wonder, though, if this maybe, once this is over, these calls are made, this vote is made, then maybe at that point does FSU finally go ahead and let the cat out the bag, or do they never announce they're leaving this conference until they're sure they have an invite somewhere else? And then do you get an invite somewhere else unless you say you're leaving the ACC first? Like, we're in a weird sort of limbo, it feels like.
Yeah, I don't know that this has to do anything other than, Alford and McCullough and everybody that's associated with Florida State could just throw up their hands and be like, look, see what we're dealing with? See what we're dealing with? See what the answer to their problem, their answer to the problem is to add 3 schools that bring absolutely nothing to the table from a financial football standpoint, which is sad to say. Stanford and Cal bring a lot in every other endeavor except college football, which for our purposes is the only thing that matters.
Oh, well said. All right, that's Corey Clark joining us from the road. Rest of the program coming up. Corey, how are you, friend?
I'm good, buddy. Hey, thanks for asking. I appreciate that.
My heart fluttered a little bit earlier. I think that signals that you're back in Tallahassee?
No, not as we record this. I'll be in Tallahassee by the time people are listening to this, though.
Okay.
Recording it from the great state of Georgia. But have to deal with my idiot kid for one more day.
Whoa.
And then head on down there for until after the LSU game.
What's with the name calling?
Sorry, Brady. He doesn't listen. Hey, he can't listen to this because he doesn't have his phone right now. So I can say whatever I want. 15-year-olds are awesome. This has been a wonderful, wonderful experience.
What was a wonderful, wonderful experience was if you're a Florida State fan, or namely a coach, player, and you realize, well, you've realized for a long time, though, but Jordan Travis is your quarterback. And when Jordan Travis, I don't know, man, I think maybe he was trying to show up for our girl Holly Rowe, who was in attendance with Chris Fowler.
Chris Fowler was there too, right?
Yeah. I mean, Jordan just kind of, I don't know, was like, hey, man, just so y'all know, we're like less than 10 days away. If you want to go where I want to go, y'all need to play like I play, and I'll show you how I get down. Just absolutely phenomenal performance out of him on Wednesday. Coach Mike Norvell called it exceptional. Some of the highlights included a really great throw in 7-on-7s to none other than Winston Wright, who was in phase the entire time, or rather Greedy Vance was in phase the entire time, but he just was able to put it and drop it right into the catch radius there of Winston Wright. 11-on-11s. I mean, he just cooked, man. He just cooked all day long, pretty much. 7-on-7, some of the throws that he made, one to Destin Hill, was beautiful. Just a deep crossing route. It was gorgeous. You've seen how this all looks, Corey, but back shoulder throws of Johnny were on point. His run game decision-making was on point. It made you feel good, because also Trey Benson had a really nice day too. They use him sparingly, but when they use him, he hits strikes. It's incredible to see the way he's running right now, because all that sort of potential that you thought, you're like, why would Oregon just let this guy leave? And then what Ira obviously saw, man, just the guy looks like, if he's going to be fast like they say he is, and he's just muscular, he's going to be great. We saw glimpses of it last year. He's going to be ready to go as well. Jared Verse was wearing a garnet jersey, not green. He was wearing garnet, which is what you want to see. But also Keon Coleman and Jordan hooked up on a bunch of passes in 7-on-7 as well. So this offense, I think, makes it sound like they just absolutely blew the defense away today, Corey. But it was one of those days where the offense took the lead early on, and then later on in practice, the defense kind of returned to form, if you will, created some turnovers, some tip balls, things of that nature. So they're progressing along very nicely right now. As again, we're like 9 days away, 10 days away. So right where you want them to be, Corey. You can't wait to be back and watch them in practice for yourself later today.
Yeah, I'll get to see them today, and they have Friday off, I think, right?
Correct.
Saturday night practice.
Yeah.
Which is apparently it's supposed to be the high is 102 on Saturday. Pretty cool. It feels like it'll probably be 190 in Tallahassee in late August. But yeah, I think we hadn't had a lot of days like that. Where you remember the day last year where the offense just ripped through the defense, right. And it was the first day where you were like, because we'd all watched Jordan. And we all knew he was a capable college quarterback that could do some special things, but it was the one day where he just torched the defense, not with his legs, but with his arm and his mind. And it sounds like Wednesday was another one of those days. Mm-hmm. And it's not like he's been bad or even average this camp. He's been very good. Mm-hmm. It's just it hasn't been a day where he looked, because of the way they structure practice, where he can, as Aslan put it, cook. But it sounds like he did on Wednesday, huh? It looked good.
Yeah. One of the 11-on-11s too there. I mean, again, he connected with Keon on a beautiful catch. Just the downfield passing game was there, which maybe we haven't seen as much of it in just full force going, but they sort of they want to stretch the field, it feels like, and he was able to do that early and often. Also, shout out to Brock Glenn, who had a completion to Keon Coleman in one-on-ones. That was an absolute beauty, and a pass that went to Jaheim Bell where, like, Jaheim had just that split second to kind of stop and locate the ball and jump up and then high point it over a freshman DB, and you're just like, yep, glad to have that guy on the side. Yeah. We've talked about him. We've talked about all these playmakers they have in fair doses, but, you know, sometimes you're like, yeah, Keon's going crazy today for the first few periods, and then you're like, oh, yeah, there's Jaheim still. Oh, yeah, there's still Johnny. So all this builds our hopeful optimism for this season and what it can be, and especially this opener, Corey. So with that in mind, let's go to our guy, Mark. M. Adam CZ says, wake up! What are 3 reasons why we won't curb stomp LSU? Offense should be unstoppable. Defense will be good enough. We have the better quarterback. The game is in the state of Florida. Thanks, guys. Let's go. So the floor is yours, Corey. What are 3 reasons why? And I'm sure I'll probably agree. And listen, I know I interviewed Matthew Bruni from the Bengal Tiger, the On3 LSU website, and told him I think Florida State's going to win. And, you know, a lot of people are excited about my confidence. Like, I don't think it's going to be a romp. I think it's going to be a 4-quarter game. I don't think it'll be a curb stomping, even though I'm saying how great I think this team looks right now. But what are some of the reasons you think conventional wisdom maybe, or just Clark wisdom, that won't result in a curb stomping in Orlando, Corey?
I mean, I don't know if I have 3. Look, Brian Kelly is a very good coach. That's one. I don't know that when they get curb stomped. I mean, they got curb stomped by Georgia last year. The A&M game, although they lost by 2 touchdowns, I think they were in the lead in the third quarter. I don't think the talent disparity is such. I think the talent is basically even. LSU might actually have a little bit more talent when you're talking about the definition of the word talent. But with experience and veterans, you know, I think Florida State is the better team. But I think it's by degrees. It's not you know, a chasm between these 2 rosters. And LSU's got a good quarterback too. That's really hard to tackle. And I think if I was going to say anything, it would be I expect LSU to score because Jane Daniels is really hard to tackle. I don't think he's a great quarterback. I don't think he's going to play at the next level. But I don't know how you stop him when they want him to run. You look at these games, and some of the games he's running for like 130, 140 yards. The only reason they were in the game last year was him running around, and he started running around in the second half. So that to me is the main. And also, it's the first game of the year, so there's going to be some stuff that's not ironed out. You're going to have some first game struggles because you always do. Maybe the rhythm isn't exactly where you'd want to be offensively because it is the first game of the year, and you are playing a legit team, a top 5 team. So you'll take a 1-point win and move on to Southern Miss all day long. This does not need to be a curb stomping. It won't be one. I just think LSU is too talented and too well coached for something like that to happen, unless turnovers create something weird and crazy. I just think it's 2 pretty darn evenly matched teams.
It's the not designed runs from Jaden Daniels, though, right? Like they don't design for him to run for his. I mean, he was running for his life against Florida. I think they designed. Hey, man. Later on the season, maybe not because their offensive line figured it out. But that week 1, second half, it was like, man, do something, please.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is like it probably is like what Jordan was in 2020. Like, hey, if Tamorrion Terry isn't open, if Neighbors isn't open, or if our really good tight end isn't open, you go through 1 read, 2 read, and take off. I think that's what they would tell him to do. I don't think they'll have a bunch of designed runs for him, but I think that's in his nature. He's more comfortable running the ball than he is throwing it. He's not a natural quarterback. He doesn't see it well, or at least he hasn't. When you watch him, I mean, I think that's why Butte was so frustrated last year. He would win his route, he'd get open, and he'd have a quarterback that wouldn't pull the trigger and wouldn't look at him. Didn't know what he was kind of looking at. And then when Nussmeier played, it was different. Butte liked playing football again. I don't think Jane Daniels is the easiest guy to play with if you're a receiver because I think you're going to win a lot of routes and matchups, and he's just not going to throw the ball because he doesn't see it. He doesn't see it quickly enough. But the downside of that for defense is it'd be a lot cooler if he played like that and was a statue, and then it's just a bunch of sacks and throws out of bounds. This guy, if the first read isn't open or the second read isn't open, he is going to take off and run. He doesn't make a lot of risky throws because he'd rather run for it than risk a throw. I wonder how many. I'm going to look up how many interceptions he had last year because I don't think it was a lot.
Yeah. Well, listen, it was a 1-point game last year. Florida State has gotten noticeably better. I would think most LSU fans probably believe that they've also gotten noticeably better. So maybe it remains within that kind of slim, tight margin. But again, man, that was, for reasons why it won't be a 3-score romp is that, that was their first game of the season. Florida State had one tune-up game, and it was their first game with a whole new staff, whole new coach, coordinators, the whole shebang. Some things might be similar. They kind of go into this game having that one receiver. Now it's Malik Neighbors. Last year was Keyshawn Booty. But at the same time, there were moments, as Corey mentioned, that like Booty would get open, but then, the ball is not on time or it's hitting off the back of his helmet. Like all these sort of weird kind of miscommunication things happen for LSU that never let them get out of their own way. That I don't think would surface this time around, even though Florida State will probably be able to apply more pressure defensively. I'm not saying like onto the quarterback, but just at every single level of the defense. I just think that, as you mentioned too, Corey, I guess like they have some really top-end talent, like and Matthew Bruni was saying as much as he feels they're very top-heavy. Like they have an NFL tight end. They have probably an NFL guy or two on their offensive line. Obviously, Harold Perkins. But again, like I don't know if they have enough to match up with Florida State for 60 minutes. I know they don't. That's why I think Florida State's going to win. But it will be close for the fact that that they still have enough talent and there's enough variables in play here this time around. I think to where they'll be a little bit sharper at least early on in this game, which will make it that much more competitive.
He threw 3 interceptions last year. He also ran for 885 yards.
Yep.
He had 3 100-yard rushing games and 2 others where he rushed for over 90. So he had 5 games of at least 93 yards rushing. He ran for 114 against Florida State last year.
Yep.
Had 15, or it looks probably like 20, closer to 20 runs of 20 yards. Like, this is the thing. He threw for 300 a couple of times. But, against Alabama, he completed 22 passes for 182 yards. So it's a lot of nickel and dime stuff. He's not really going to – he doesn't typically shred a secondary. But – he was 22 of 32 for 182 against Alabama, 2 touchdowns, no turnovers, and then he ran 18 times for 95 yards.
Yeah.
So this is a unique, as much as I talk about Jordan, and this is the thing, man, I remember watching Jane Daniels when he was at Arizona State. I remember that Sun Bowl, and then I remember other games because he was this true freshman that was making plays. I didn't know he was that kind of athlete.
Right.
Like he's Jordan Travis-esque. He might be I know he's a more – he runs more than Jordan Travis, but he might actually be a more dangerous runner than Jordan Travis, and Jordan Travis is an exceptionally dangerous runner. So I just think that's a great equalizer. I think Florida State is better. I think they're a better team. I think they have more experienced talent. They might not have more NFL talent, but I think the guys that they have some special dudes, and I think they have a lot of really good college football players. But guys like this, a 3rd and 11 and he scrambles for 17 yards is demoralizing. What I want to see, whether they win or lose, and obviously you want them to win, I want to see them play, because last year they were so bad at zone for the most part, the secondary was, that you could give up 114 yards rushing to a quarterback because you have to play man all the time, so your back is to the quarterback all the time.
Yeah.
Are they going to be able to play zone, spread out, and take this away? And who are they? I mentioned this on headlines. I know this is one question. We got a lot more to go to. Who do you think they get to spy on Jade Daniels? Because he's such a unique quarterback in the sense that he probably won't shred you with his right arm. Do you bring in a secondary guy to spy him, or do you try Deloach?
I was going to say Deloach because I don't even know if you have anybody that wildly gifted and talented in the defensive secondary to have that kind of like a Jamie would. I would think if he was still around.
Well, that's what I'm saying, like Shaheem maybe, but I think you need somebody with a little more speed. Deloach is a really good athlete for a linebacker, but he's not as fast as Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, probably not.
And if they're racing to the edge, he can't keep up with them. He can't make them stop. He's just going to turn the corner. Somebody like and again, I haven't watched practice, and they haven't even started game planning for LSU yet. And if we knew who the spy was, I wouldn't tell you, and I wouldn't even be going down this road. I'm just speculating. I think it could be somebody like like an Azarie Thomas or a Jarian Jones, somebody that's proven to be an experienced college football player, but might not be in the field on the field because Florida State has so many other DBs. Like, put somebody out there that can run with the dude. So, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. He's such a unique guy that it's going to be really interesting how they defend him.
Yeah, last thing on that I would say, too, about and the Jaden Daniels aspect is something that maybe we're, accounting for here on it. But I think he's probably in the best situation he's been in his career. I mean, 2019 was a true freshman. 2020 was a COVID year. Pac-12 was handling things a little bit different. 2021, there was all sorts of turmoil going around Herm Edwards and that staff. I think they had turnover on the offensive staff pretty close to that season starting. 2022, all these allegations start coming out, people stabbing each other in the back in Tempe. Like, he hasn't, he had obviously left by 2022, but like, he is now in place with a pretty competent staff, with a really good wide receiver and some pretty decent running backs and a strong offensive line around him. So he's probably in the best place he's been. He's also, fifth year kind of a guy. So, he could be one of those guys that, he might be the best quarterback that Florida State sees all season long. Other than Cade Klubnik, if he takes some sort of huge Herculean leap. But otherwise, this might be the best they'll see, and it's week 1, which is even that much more of a pain in the neck. So 2 weeks away, everybody. Less than 2 weeks away. Can't wait. Noel Boyo2 wants to look back on the past, Corey. He says, wake up. Give me your top 3 FSU games you've attended that are not national championship games. He's one of our younger listeners. He's got 2010 Florida, 2010 Gator Bowl, which I think would be after 2009 season.
Yeah.
And then he can't pick between last year's LSU and Florida game. So,
yeah, all right.
Top 3 that weren't national championship games.
I would say the Michigan game in 91. That's an all-time memory for me and my dad. By the way, 12-year anniversary of my dad passing away on Tuesday. Like yesterday. Isn't that crazy? Or 2 days ago. It's been 12 years. Anyway.
Feels like it was yesterday.
It does, man. And then 12 years. That's crazy. That's it's nuts. Brady was 3, and now he's an idiot 15-year-old.
That's John Clark's grandson. Show some freaking respect.
Yeah, exactly right. I should start bringing it. Your granddad would be upset with you right now. So 91 Michigan is always one that comes to mind. The 88 Punt-Ruski, Clemson is another one. And then and not a national championship game. The 98 Florida game. The Rooster, Peter Warwick, just that whole scene was awesome. That was an all-time great atmosphere.
2003 Gator game in the Swamp.
Okay.
It was always nice. 13 game against Miami, just because that was the first time like a lot of us had gotten back together since we graduated and like actually been able to see a really good football team. I mean, shoot, this is the first time we were able to see a really good football team since, our sophomore year of college. And then what else do I want to sprinkle in there? Do I want to say 2005 Miami? It was my first game working with Warchant. I was in the press box, the muff kick, Drew Weatherford,
Man, that
Xavier
game
Lee.
was awful.
It was gross. I only got 2 for you right now, Noel boy. I'll see if I can think of another one. Maybe that Gator Bowl. Seeing Bobby go out on top. It was raining. It was miserable, but the sun started breaking through the clouds in the second half when the Noles started their comeback. So I'll steal your pick, Noel boy 02. Appreciate you, man. Noel Dynasty, or rather Noel_Dynasty. Wake up, everybody. Just received my first order of vitamin energy. I'll be trying out later this week, and I'll report back.
There we go.
My man. All right. Warchant BOGO, BOGO. Use that promo code, everybody. Also, I hope everything came out okay for Jeff Cameron on Friday.
Apparently, yeah. Nothing to worry about, it doesn't seem like.
All right. Nice. Put yourself in the shoes of Wake Forest's athletic director and defend your school's honor and why the ACC should remain. Would love to hear the perspective of a school that is being left behind. Feel free to talk down upon the actions FSU has taken. Defend adding Calford. That's clever. Cal and Stanford. Defend adding those 2 schools in SMU. What might you be doing to secure another landing spot? Let's hear it.
Yeah, so I think you would, and I'm not going to play a role. I don't even know Wake's AD's name.
John
I'm
Curry,
not gonna,
I think, right? Isn't it John Curry the guy used to be at Tennessee?
Oh, it could be, yeah. I'm not going to role play, but I would say the sentiment he would have, that I agree with, quite frankly, is that, the beauty of sports is the regionality of sports. The beauty of sports should be that everybody has a chance to win, and everybody is in it's not just all about chasing the dollar. This is not what college athletics should be. It's ridiculous that it's come to this, but you're making all these decisions with 19-year-olds, and really most of them are actual. I know people roll their eyes when they hear this. Most of the athletes at Florida State and Wake and these schools are student athletes. They are very good students, and you're making no decisions with those people in mind. None of them. You're making decisions for the money. And wouldn't it be cool if the entire country took a step back from this money grab and this money chase and did what's best for these student athletes, kept it regional, kept these conferences as is, showed some pride in the conference you've been in for 30 years, be a team player, and try to build this together, and maybe one day we can catch the SEC or Big Ten. But if we don't, oh well, we still feel good about ourselves and can wake up in the morning and pat ourselves on the back for being the bastions of integrity. And then the opposite take is, yeah, well, some of us care about winning national championships and playing real college football and winning real games and making a lot of money to keep up, and some of us don't. And you are the one that doesn't. You have been ranked twice in the top 10 in the last 30 years. Florida State is at 253. So your opinion on the current state of college athletics, because college athletics is college football right now, does not matter and does not hold any weight, and I don't care to hear it. There you go. That's a good role play back and forth. That was like an angel and a devil on my shoulder.
Yeah. Should I'll make a complete heel turn here? Just be like, over the last 7 years, Wake has invested $100 million into our football facilities. We just dropped $38 million into our football facility. We paid for that straight cash. We didn't need to do a bond issue. We didn't need to have the civic community come out and rally for it and rally against it. We paid straight cash. Oh, and we've got a 3-game winning streak against a team that keeps complaining about how bad this league is. Oh, and we shut them out like 17 years ago, and we made their all-time coach have to fire his son. Show us respect. We're the Mighty Deacons of Wake Forest. Come to our hill. Come to our hill. See what happens.
I'm on the YouTube channel right now. The ACC Digital Network, they do these condensed games, which are awesome. I'm looking at 2 Wake Forest games, one against VMI that has 19,000 views total.
Ooh, strong.
And another one that has 20,000 against Duke.
Not bad.
Which is about, quite honestly, what the Warchant rap gets. So nobody cares about Wake Forest football. I'm sorry. Florida State gets 130,000 or 180,000 views for
no one cares
these
about
condensed games. Wake Forest gets a tenth of that.
I don't like picking on Wake Forest. I
don't either. But
no one likes Vanderbilt football, but Vanderbilt football is going to get all this money and stays in the SEC. Like, Wake Forest is a legitimate good football program. Like, they made a really good hire. They're smart with the way they spend their money when it comes to capital investments, and they figured out a way to recruit kids to that school and be competitive. They're never going to win a national championship. They probably won't even win this conference. But man, they'll line up and they'll give you 60 minutes of good football, and they're going to lose out on that opportunity now. They're not going to be part of this great, 2 super mega conference thing. Maybe, hopefully, there'll be some sort of relegation component, and teams like Vanderbilt and underperforming teams, maybe in the Big Ten, will lose out. And then these schools that have figured out ways to win football on smaller budgets can maybe compete with all of us. That'd be nice. But I get it, everybody. Wake Forest for so long, we need to find someone else to pick on. I just feel weird picking on Wake Forest. Yeah, they're actually okay and they spend money,
Duke's probably a better one, but the point remains, and I guess the overriding point is, Aslan, it does not matter. In the grand scheme of things, in the way college football is structured, in the way the TV markets, the TV networks control everything, it does not matter how good Wake is, man. It just doesn't. They're
in terms of getting money for your conference,
they're screaming into a void because nobody cares, man. If you win an ACC title in the Forest and nobody's there to hear it, does it make a sound? That's what Wake Forest football is, sadly, because you're right. They do more with less than anybody in the country, probably.
And they're investing, though. I mean, $100 million in the last 7 years. Yeah. They're trying. They're not just sitting on this money. But they just don't.
Nobody cares, man. Yeah. I'm looking again at another one. They played Syracuse, the condensed game. 8,600 views. Their game against Army last year, their full game, 3,000 views. And I know YouTube isn't a perfect metric, but it's a pretty good one. It's just nobody cares about Wake Forest football, and that's sad because they deserve some. They deserve, instead of us ripping them for how many the ratings they get in the basically the eyeballs that are watching them each week. We should, Aslan's right, we should applaud them for being pretty darn good for a substantial portion of the last 15 years.
Yeah, they play good football, man. Yeah.
But it just, for Florida State's purpose, trying to keep up with the SEC, it just doesn't matter. And I've been to, I don't know, man, 12, 10 Wake Forest games inside Doak Campbell Stadium. I might have seen, they brought maybe more than 100 people once. Yeah. They don't travel. They don't care. And it sucks, but it's the truth. And you want to get into a conference where they travel, they care, and they pay a lot better. And Wake ain't the answer there.
I nominate Syracuse. Can Syracuse be the punching bag in these examples?
Boston College is the better one, honestly. Boston College and Syracuse are absolutely the two best punching bags in this conference. They are ridiculous.
But BC's at least played in the conference championship game.
Come on, man. That was 14 years ago.
What Syracuse said nothing except, hurt Abdul Bello's feelings, Love you, Abdul. Yeah. Love you. Almost as much as I love Vitamin Energy. VitaminEnergy.com. Promo code is Warchant BOGO, B-O-G-O. Our guy Noel_Dynasty is going to report back and let us know how it is, unless he doesn't like it, in which case we won't report it. But we don't have any fear of that happening because stuff's really good, everybody. There's vitamins. There's energy. 7 hours of it. And now that we're in this morning mode, Core, where we're adults and we're waking up at a reasonable hour, when you take this in the morning to get you through the juice that Mike Norvell and his staff brings to practice, it puts you on a perfect course to sail throughout the afternoon, get your workout in. You should have seen your guy, Chris Fowler, man. I really would have liked to seen you guys kind of trade some nutrition tips and workout tips. I'm sure you would let him know about Vitamin Energy, and he would have been very appreciative of that sort of stuff. So it helps you fluctuate throughout the entire day on that right plane. You're on that right plane the entire day because there's no sugar in this stuff. So there's no sugar crash, which everyone's like, dude, does it give you the jitters? Sometimes I'll take a caffeine thing, but then I feel worse after I take it than I did when I started it. That's the sugar. None of it in here. Non-GMO, made in America. It's kosher-free. And we can't give it to you for free, but we can give you one for free when you buy one. So use that promo code Warchant BOGO, Warchant B-O-G-O, over at vitaminenergy.com. I almost want to say we should pick on Louisville a little bit, but let's just go to the state of Kentucky and talk to our guy, Bourbon is your friend. Listening to Seminole headlines, I couldn't help but wonder if Jeff's son, Clark, is named after you, Corey.
No. That's just that's a weird, or maybe he is. We've never really talked about, probably, now that I think about it, he probably is named after me. Jeff's never admitted that, but why would he?
If politicians are not able to reverse the NCAA's ruling on Darrell Jackson, what other sphere of influence might be able to? A letter from Taylor Swift and Ed Sheeran, Keanu Reeves and a co-sign by Sandra Bullock, David Attenborough and Richard Dawkins possibly. Is Charlton Heston still alive? Please submit 2 answers, Corey and Aslan.
That could sway?
Yeah.
Look, man, you have to start making threats. Like physical harm. That's the only thing I can think of. Either bribes or threats.
People know. The only currency these people know is fear.
Yeah. Our payments.
Okay.
There's got to be somebody. I don't know who rules on this. I don't know what person in the NCAA. Is it a 3-person panel? Is it just one person in a desk in Indianapolis that says, nope, we're not allowing this? But find out who the decision maker is, the ultimate decision maker is, and go give them some Battles End money. Or some Vitamin Energy money. So go give them some scratch. Make it worth their while. Or, threaten a loved one. Those are the only 2. I'm not advocating for threatening a loved one. I'm just saying people respond to 2 different things. So those will be my 2 plays. I don't think Taylor Swift's going to get it done.
So the movie Celtic Pride gone wrong. Somebody kidnaps a loved one of Charlie Barker, and we won't release them until you let Darrell Jackson be allowed to play. That would not be good.
Yeah. Man. Did you ever see the first episode of Black Mirror?
No, I have not.
Okay. Well, in that one, they've kidnapped I think it's a royal family member.
Oh, okay.
And the Prime Minister of England, to get released, the Prime Minister of England has to go do some unnatural things with a pig on live television.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
And so I'm not advocating for that at all. We don't want to see Charlie Barker do that. That's really gross. And the spoiler alert, the daughter had already been released by the time he's doing that on TV. And, of course, he couldn't get reelected because everybody just saw him do that. So, yeah, that's how Black Mirror is actually a pretty cool show. It's got some really neat, awesome episodes. I wouldn't recommend starting with that one. Okay. Scoot along a little more in the first season.
I think the 3D chess move on here is you have to find somebody over at TBS, CBS, whoever pays all that money for the NCAA basketball tournament, and then maybe see if they could apply the pressure to the NCAA since they're like the biggest benefactor. And be like, hey, like my daughter goes to Florida State, like find some big up executive with, Turner Sports and be like, hey, man, my daughter goes to school there. It's her last year. All the girls at the sorority house really want to see a national title on their way out. Yeah. Just let the kid play. Come on, Charlie, do what's right.
Okay. Right. Or so, these are all great ideas.
Yeah, or we'll sell the you won't be getting our money anymore. And ESPN doesn't have any more money after they bought Pat McAfee. So
right, yeah,
no one's going to buy your basketball tournament. The Noles 24, not the THA. With the addition and retention of weapons on our offense, there's a good chance that it will cause trouble for opposing defenses. However, in most of the practice updates, we have heard a variation of defense won the day. Is our defense also going to be that good, or is our offense more of better on paper unit? I was thinking about this a little bit, Corey.
Okay.
I'm glad this came up. I didn't see this question beforehand. But I think we talk about like the defense looking good and still giving compliments to the offense. Maybe it doesn't answer this question in specifically to the letter of the question, but I think like on a day-to-day where Jordan is performing at such a high level, so much of it is like it's the precision. Is just, he is getting the ball out on time in the right spot. Maybe not like absolute surgical precision in terms of his accuracy throwing the ball, but in terms of going through the routes with his receiver, being on the right sort of step on his backdrop to get rid of the football. Like when you're performing at that high of a level, even if your defense is playing really well, you're still probably going to go ahead and complete the pass and have a good positive play. Now, what you're hoping is that LSU doesn't have that kind of rhythm, that kind of chemistry that's been developed over years with Jordan Travis and his ability to feel things out in the pocket and just the way they're able to communicate and work things out so well with a guy like Keon Coleman that's brand new. So I just think you're hoping the defense, if they can play that well against Jordan Travis and this offense, this defense will be good enough to slow down every other offense they face long enough for this offense to pull out wins. So that's where I'm at when we talk about the defense competing well, at least. Maybe not winning the day.
And I'm going to be really interested with Norvell's fourth down decision-making because you're only going to get 11 or 12 possessions a game. If it's 4th and 3 at your own 40, are you really willing to give it up? You don't think your team can get 3 yards? I know that's not how football has been played our whole lives. If it's 4th and 3 at your own 40, you're punting it. But, man, if you're an offense that's averaging 6 yards a play and you only need to get 3, I just think the math says we need to go for it here. You don't want to give up a possession. You get 4 downs to make a first down, not 3. When all these announcers say, well, now they're going to be forced to punt. Well, no, they're not. You're choosing to punt. You're never forced to punt. Obviously, 4th and 20 at your own 9, you would. But you understand my point? Like, I think when you have an offense that's this capable in this dynamic, and you honestly go into every game thinking you should score 35 to 45 to 50 points, it's going to be really fascinating to see how many times he goes for it on 4th down. Because he went for it a lot last year. They were one of the worst in the country. They've got to get better at that. But I'm going to be, I would say anything 3 yards and under, no matter where you are on the field, not inside your own 10 or 20. I'm of the opinion you need to keep your offense on the field because this could be an all-time great offense. You've got all these weapons. Don't just give up because you got 3 yards to go on 4th down. Because this first game especially, because you're playing there's only a few offenses that I think could probably keep up with you. And this is one of them. It's not as good as yours, but they've got players and they've got a quarterback. It's going to be really fascinating to see what he does on 4th down because on paper, and not even on paper, we've seen it in person on the grass so far this August. Yeah. This is an exceptional offense. Should be an exceptional offense if it stays healthy. There's just too many weapons. And I just don't know if you send Keon Coleman and Johnny Wilson and Jaheim Bell and Jordan Travis to the sideline because you're scared you can't make 3 yards. So we'll see.
The defense is going to be that good. I don't like the emphasis on like that good, but I understand the crux of the question. There's probably going to be one Saturday where you're mad at this defense. It's just
more than one, man.
Yeah, it's just the way it is.
2023.
Yeah. The defense is going to be, I mean, I don't know, man. Thinking really about Adam Fuller, a guy that doesn't really heap a lot of praise on anybody, and that's just the way he is, and it's fine. I admire it or whatever. But like when your defensive coordinator after the second scrimmage talks about we have as good a chance to be as good as anybody out there, or something along the lines of that, paraphrasing him here. Yeah, man, the defense with Verse and Fisk is 70 snaps. Maybe they're not going to play all 70 side by side, but man, those two guys over the course of a game, like they're going to disrupt enough plays. Fentrell Cypress is one of those guys that was in my top 40 confessions where I think I ranked him too low in the preseason, and instead of focusing on his breadth of his career, I focused on 15 spring practices, and he's getting there. Greedy's there. Renardo is there. You have really good cornerbacks. Your secondary in terms of the safety is probably going to be good enough. Yeah, man, they're going to be good, especially relative to the expectations of what 2023 is and what you need to be when you have an offense that's going to be performing top 10, top 5 level scoring offense. So it's going to be all right. No paper champions here, just real champions, everybody.
There you go. And I think the defense will be. I mean, again, the defense was top 20 in the country last year. And I've said this before. I know we're upset with how the season ended. Remember who they were missing in the bowl game. And then, Lovett just wasn't himself the whole season. They just didn't have a defensive line last year other than number 5. Yeah. They just weren't very good up front. Now they are much better up front. But also, they didn't lose the NC State game because of the defense. Mm-hmm. And they didn't lose the Wake game because of the defense. Yeah. They held Wake to 28 points. That was well below Wake's season average. Yeah. It was the offense in both those games that lost that game. Now, the flip side is the offense won the Florida and the Oklahoma game. I get it. But I'm just saying that it's not like the offense had to overcome a horrible defense all season and to get to 10 wins. The defense was as responsible or maybe more responsible for the 10 wins than the offense was. And the defense should be better this year. It's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be great. No defense is. But it will be good enough that if the offense plays to its potential, it should win. And I'm talking about the entire season, bowls, championship games, everything else. It should win 11 or 12 games. If the offense plays up to its potential, if the defense will be good enough, I think, to uphold its end of the bargain.
I'm saying 11 games before December, y'all.
Okay, Aslan.
Y'all follow me. Old Dads and wake up. I listed my better watch out game as the game at Wake Forest. We all agree on paper we should clobber them, but you have to remember how they embarrassed us just last year and the fact that many probably don't realize that we are only 9-7 the last 16 matchups versus the Demon Deacons. My screen just went black, and now I can't get back to where I was on my screen. Now I can. Shocking, I know. Who are you guys? Better watch out games on the schedule. Leaving for Vegas on Thursday, Old Dad. Safe travels, Old Dad. Duke's my pick. We'll see how stupid that is after week 1. It's all this Clemson game. If they play Clemson close or, put a scare into Clemson or maybe upset them, then maybe that gets elevated a little bit. But I know Pitt is one of the other ones that's out there. But for me, I will say, off the beaten path, non-rivalry kind of game, for me, it's a Duke right now.
And I worry just because it's a quote-unquote trap game and where it falls in the season and it's the first real road game at BC. You beat the tar out of them last year.
Yes.
So you might go into that game feeling it's going to be a sleepy nooner in Boston. There's going to be, I don't know, man, it's going to be 20,000 people there. It's one of those games where you can find yourself in a game in the third quarter that shouldn't be a game. If you don't come with the right mindset, if you don't come out, and look, I know we talk about the culture and what Norvell is building, and it's true, but there's going to be games, because it's human nature, that you don't come out with the best clear mindset that you should have in a noon game in Boston in front of 20,000 fans the week before Death Valley. Can be a little bit tricky if you don't come and bring it. The good news is they proved last year in that last back half of the season that they were able to overcome. They were able to bring it even when they weren't supposed to. The Louisiana game, the Syracuse game. Yeah, they came out and played really well, even when it would have been a nice excuse to kind of go through the motions for a quarter and a half. So that one to me, I'm more curious about it than like thinking it's a watch out game. I want to see how they handle it. And then Wake's a good answer too, because I just want them to beat the bejesus out of Wake. They need to step on their throats. And if they, I know Wake has good receivers still, and that offense is always going to be a little weird to stop. It's going to be tricky. But the problem with the game last year against Wake, well, number one, you didn't get off the field much. The defense didn't, but the offense, they
early turnovers, yeah.
Yeah, but the offense had 7 points in the third quarter, go midway through the third quarter or something. Right. So the offense just has to go up there and represent itself much better than it did last year.
Did we learn anything big picture wise against Boston College in 2013?
Yeah,
was that
I thought that was a game they would have lost. Or other Jimbo teams, other Florida State teams of the previous 13 years would have lost that game. Jameis Winston is different, was different. And they didn't, they got down 17-3. It was about to be 21-3. And then Jameis Winston, an hour and a half later, you're up by 2 scores. I just don't think that happens. I think that it took that team was going to be very good with or without Jameis Winston. But it was special. I think Jacob Coker loses that game. Clint Trickett loses that game. Jameis Winston obviously won that game by 2 touchdowns. And that's when I thought, oh, yeah, this thing is different. This offense. I wasn't sold on the defense yet because they gave up 34 points in that game. But the offense, I was like, yeah, this offense is going to be one of the best in the country, and they're going to be able to play and beat anybody.
Yeah, it was like that hurdle that had to be overcome, at least for us fans, was like losing the games that you're not supposed to lose, or winning the games that you're supposed to win, and you don't lose those games. And like it started unfolding. We were like, man, I thought we had this figured out finally. We weren't going to be this team that was going to go around and shoot ourselves in the foot, and they sure enough did. I remember I was driving, I think, to Alabama for like an Ole Miss Alabama game, listening to it on the radio. I'm like, great, this is who we are. So we're always going to be. And then, like you said, an hour and a half later, I'm like, all my friends are like, this Jameis guy's amazing. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, because that was the Hail Mary at the end of the half.
Yeah.
But it wasn't even a Hail Mary. It was just a go route to one player. But it's like that stuff was the stuff that would not have happened. I mean, it was just that moment, that play in particular. They had already tied the game at 17, and you felt like they were going to run away with it in the second half anyway. They had gotten their sea legs. But then that play is like, okay, this is unlike anything we've ever seen. Like, this kid is unlike anything we've ever seen, and this offense is unlike anything Jimbo's ever had. It's not close, and so it played out that way. So I thought the BC game was a learning moment. Although it is the next week that I predicted that Maryland would be a problem.
Well,
I still hold to that. They were a problem for a quarter. And a half.
They allowed 34 points at Boston College,
yeah.
man. It made sense. That shirt's awesome still. Our guy Riser Mike is back for more. Can we ask Coach Norvell this? I feel like I already kind of asked him this, and he didn't really give an answer, so we'll see. Maybe this is more eloquent, perhaps. Can we ask Coach this? Since you've gotten here, you have upgraded the talent of the team considerably. Do you find yourself trying to scheme up new plays, or does the improvements just allow you to do some that you felt you weren't capable of doing with lesser talent? Is this offense a constantly evolving system? I was trying to ask him something kind of along that. When you're coming up with new plays, is it like, are you trying to be innovative and come up with like completely new stuff, or are there things that you've had in mind before that now you feel you can actually like deploy and draw up, which kind of might be a roundabout way of saying that you have better talent than you had in years past? He gave some sort of non-answer, so I don't know. Maybe some other time we can ask him this and see what he says. What do you think, Corey?
I mean, I just think the real answer to that, I mean, it's offense. You're not reinventing anything. There's no new plays that can be just completely materialized out of thin air. It's variations of plays that have already been run, and unless we're talking about trick plays, but I don't think that's the sentiment of the question. What I think has changed, it all goes back to the 5 guys up front, or in this case, the 8 guys up front. There are absolutely things you cannot run when your offensive line is getting obliterated. You have to completely change the way you call a game and think a game, because your quarterback's not going to have 4 seconds to sit there and stare down the field. It's going to have to be quick. It's going to have to be misdirection, trying to keep these rush ins from just obliterating your quarterback. But now I think you can. I think that's the more accurate answer, is that he has every play design, every playbook. His whole playbook is open, because he trusts that no matter what he's called, for the most part. Now, they might get caught in a blitz, where they're not expecting one, or a guard might just get whipped, or a defensive end might just blitz past your tackle. That happens. But by and large, he knows going into a game, his offensive line can block it up. And if it can be blocked up, it opens up everything. And 2 or 3 years ago, obviously, it wasn't getting blocked up.
MyBookie.ag. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere. Oh, is this the part where Aslan tells me to bet on Jordan Travis for Florida State to win the national championship? Yeah. Yep, this is that part. Use the promo code WARCHANT when you sign up for your first time at MyBookie.ag. You'll get an instant cash deposit bonus. All right, maybe you don't want 20-1 odds on the Noles to win it all. I get it. 20-1 means it's kind of a long shot. I don't subscribe to that. But what if I can interest you in maybe just getting to the playoff? That is available now over at MyBookie.ag. Florida State plus 320 to make the playoff. Plus 320. That means 3-1. A little bit better than 3-1 odds. Not 20-1, but you just got to make the playoff. You don't got to make the playoff and then win 2 more games. You got to make the playoff. 3-1. Not bad. Not bad. Just putting it out there. Options aplenty. You can bet anything, anytime, anywhere at MyBookie.ag. Just make sure you sign up and use the promo code WARCHANT to get that instant cash deposit bonus. We're going to have to kind of sprint through here. We got a lot of questions.
Let's go.
Our guy, Any Seminole, is asking, love the show. Good morning. Love all the news that's coming out there. Will you guys be working with Dominic Robinson again this year and have a watch-along party? I love having that option. I don't think enough of you love that option to have us bring it back, but we'll have pregame and postgame shows, so there is that. And then obviously everything coming on the website during the game, observations and updates from Corey or Ira, so we'll have that.
We did a watch-along for, in the press box with Ira and I, or Ira, you and I, for, the North Alabama game.
All right. Yeah, it's the camera's on us the whole time. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
That'd be something, right?
Yeah.
We could go sit in one of the empty parts of the press box and just talk the whole game.
Okay.
But not for an LSU game. It just wasn't getting it did fine. It just didn't do well enough to devote the resources we were devoting to it.
Yeah. Sunrise Noel, wake up. Glad to hear Destin Hill's off to a great start. I'm going to put the odds at 3 touchdowns for Destin Hill. Over or under? Over. Come on, Corey. Come over.
Okay,
over.
Yeah, I'll do over too. Hey, we talking about the first game? Come on, gang. Get on board. Destin Hill's legit.
Our guy Jangalang just kind of echoing the question earlier, sort of. Well, not the question earlier, but we talked a lot about this. Obviously, the Florida State-LSU matchup. Watching interviews, listening to the Warchant crew's assessment from practice, and now that second scrimmage and no major injuries, I feel sky high about this team. When you add together the incredible talent, mix it in with great culture and chemistry, sprinkle it with a bunch of guys that learned some hard lessons last year and decide to come back, I think you have a relentless veteran group that is going to be laser-focused. I think we may win by 2 scores and put the nation on notice. Let's ride. I don't disagree with anything that I just read off my screen right there.
There you go. I would say this, and I'm a cynic at heart. I think it's the Atlanta sports fan in me. But I would say this, and I would caution people against this. Do not, under any circumstance, and I don't care how the game goes in Orlando, do not give up on this team. It's one game. There are plenty of times where we've seen one team look bad for 1 week early on and end up being a great football team. So I am convinced if they stay healthy, this is going to be a very good top 10-ish football team, maybe much higher than that. But don't put all your eggs into this one basket because it's not how football works anymore. They could play 15 games this year. Don't leap to conclusions off one game. That said, I think they'll win the game too. I don't think it's going to be 2 touchdowns, but I think they'll win the game too. But I'm a believer in this team no matter what happens in Orlando.
All right. Absolutely. Blue Knoll, wake up. It's an apt name because I can't sleep with game time being so close, and I look forward to all your camp tidbits. By the way, Tidbits is a good name for a band, but I digress. My question is, with all the changes in the college game over the past decade in regards to formations, RPOs, zone reads, do you think there will be any other changes in the future? Would there be anything you would like to see offenses be able to do that they can't do now under the current rules? Absolutely not. They need to be limited, if anything. Yeah, we can't give any more free reign. If you could ask Coach that question sometime, I'd be interested to know his thoughts on that. Anyways, thanks for keeping me sane until the season starts.
I don't think there's like Aslan said, I don't think there's anything that should be done for the offense. I think if anything, it should go the other way. And I've said this before. I think intentional grounding should be outlawed, meaning you're not. I don't care if you're outside of the pocket. If you throw it away intentionally, it's a penalty. Defense does a great job covering the guys they're supposed to cover. You've got nowhere to go with the ball. You either run out of bounds and take the 6-yard loss, or you throw it somewhere in the middle towards a receiver and make it look good. Otherwise, we're flagging you. I think the defense needs to get more rewards for that, because you threw the ball into the stands on 1st and 10 because the thing you thought was going to be open wasn't. Well, now you've got 2 downs, sometimes 3 downs to get 10 yards. Well, you'll get it. Odds are, because it's 2023 and everybody moves the ball and scores points. So I think that would be the one thing I would take away from football in general, is be allowed to intentional ground outside the pocket.
Seminole Mike 1. Howdy, guys. Excited the season is just around the corner. Before I forget, Aslan wanted to add to the accolades on your ACC kickoff interviews of the other team's players. Really enjoyed those. Good job.
There you go, Aslan.
Thank you, Seminole Mike. 2 questions.
Seminole Mike and Shanna. That's 2 now.
There we go. Add to that growing list.
Yeah.
2 questions. First one. It seems very clear to me that the coaches have put a lot of work and emphasis into Kalen DeLoach since the end of last year, talking about what he needs to be, emphasizing leadership, even electing him for the ACC kickoff representation. I can only guess that they have long seen him as a key to success this year. Do you feel he has reached their goals in play and leadership?
I mean, we'll see once the season starts, but yeah, he certainly hasn't not looked like that.
Yeah.
In practice, he's one of the leaders. There's a few of them out there that are always talking to their teammates. He certainly seems to be one of them. Yeah.
And what happened if Kalen DeLoach is Telvin Smith? Like, what does that look like? Like, what does that mean? I'm not saying that that's the question, but like, if he fulfills this potential that like we think he has inside of him, I'm not saying that it is Telvin Smith, but like, let's dream that dream. Like, what happens to this defense if they have a top caliber linebacker like that next to Tatum Bethune? Do you think?
Oh, I don't know. Like, you're talking about like being Telvin Smith, the football player, or the leader?
The football player. Yeah, it's production.
Yeah, man, that's a huge deal, because you can. I mean, Telvin Smith could cover guys. He had a couple pick sixes that year. He was a great cover linebacker, and he flew all over the field. He ran like a cornerback almost. Yeah. Made plays in the backfield. He was special. So yes, that would add them. If Telvin Smith was the starting linebacker for this team, I might not have said what I said 3 minutes ago about loving this team whether they win or lose, because I would be expecting them to win pretty comfortably.
Or 10 wins over the course of playoff, championship games, all that stuff. You might knock
they would have the ceiling would be a touch higher in my opinion, or more emphatically, the floor would be much higher. Because Kalen DeLoach has proven to be a pretty good college linebacker, especially when he's healthy, but he's not Telvin Smith.
Second part, I think it's a bit of a trick question if you really think about it. If the over-under for post-fall camp transfers is 2.5 scholarship players, where is your money? I'm looking at the roster. I see at least 10 players who seem to have a long road ahead if they hope to see substantial playing time. What I think is a trick question on this, Corey, almost is, if this team is as good as we think they're going to be, I don't know, do you wait to go into the portal until after spring football? I mean, do you want to be that guy that puts his name in the portal after championship weekend if your team is still, your team is coming off winning a championship, But for sure, they'll – I mean, it's a good question. I think that's what makes it tricky, right? Because they're going to lose more than 2.5 scholarship players between now and next season. But
he's talking about in the fall?
Post-fall camp transfers. But
yeah, so he's talking about as the season's going on.
Yes.
I guess that happened a few times last year. What's his name? McCall put his name in and then took it out. And was there anybody else that entered the portal in the fall?
Probably, but names escape me at this juncture.
But the thing is about that, like, what's the? And I've said this before. I would say that's a good number. I'd say it's either going to be 2 or 3. But what's the point? I mean, I guess you get your name out there earlier, that people know you're available, because the portal season is so chaotic in December, and so get your name on that list earlier so people can, I guess, start contacting you. But say you're the third string linebacker and you don't think you're gonna enter your name in the portal. Okay, well then I almost don't want you at my practices. You're not coming to my practices. If you're not on the team anymore, if your head is elsewhere, well, you're not going to be in my team room, you're not going to be hanging out with my players, and you're not going to be on the practice field. The problem with that is, what if my starting linebackers go down? I actually need you now.
Yeah.
So I just don't understand why somebody would give up on themselves in September. Because there's always a chance, especially in this sport, that you'll be needed. And maybe it's for one quarter in November, but it's a pivotal quarter. And you might be needed, and you're not even on the team. So, I didn't answer the question. I don't know. I would say over, but barely.
Okay. Well, the Walking Nole 01, what's up, what's up, what's up? Which room of the new football-only facility would you want named after each of you? Corey, I'm thinking the conference room is a lock for you after you got Coach to give that fiery speech. If you have a different preference, that's cool. And what about you, Aslan? Weight room?
I'd be the weight room, yeah. Corey Clark, weight room.
He says I should be the hot tub, cold tub station, have my name on it. All right. Yeah, I can do that.
Do you do cold tub stuff?
I'd love to if I could, yeah. I mean,
what's the point of it?
It just shocks the system, helps you recover quicker.
Is that what it is? It's for recovery?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Because I haven't done it. I would love a sauna. But I don't get to do a sauna either. But yeah, I would be the weight room probably. I think that goes without saying. I mean, I don't want to brag, but the other day I had 250s in each arm on the incline press. Just
go, man.
Did it easily, guys. Easily. I was holding it down at my chest and letting it squeeze, really straining, and then pushing back up real slow, 1, 2, 3, and then holding it there, then 3, 2, 1, really slow on the way down, then squeezing my chest, guys.
The concentric movement of the exercise, what they call it.
That's what I do.
Yeah. I wanted to be named after the barber shop, and I want a bust. Whoever makes the busts for Canton and the Pro Football Hall of Fame, I want them to make a bust of me circa 2008 with my hair when it used to hit my shoulders, and then that would be like the Howard's Rock before you walk into the barber shop. It'd be the Hudge of Andy barber shop. And
you'd rub it? Like you'd rub your head?
Yeah, my beautiful hair that I used to have.
That's a good idea.
I promise you all, it was amazing. I miss it every single day.
And if they have a Papa shot, then I should have a statue next to that.
Yeah, there we go. Now we're talking. Big B7034, wake up, morning, fellas. Almost time for our boys to kick things off against LSU. We hear a lot about Keon, Johnny, Winston, Vandrevius, tight ends. How have the lesser-known or forgotten players been performing? He gives us a list of guys. The one that stands out to me on this list is Deuce Spann, Corey. Deuce had a pretty nice camp here of late. Hakeem Williams is a guy that Coach Norvell talked about after practice on Wednesday, saying that maybe the last 7 days he's sort of come on, and he said, listen, he's like, to be completely honest, it's just being in game shape. When you show up as a freshman, early enrollee, it's kind of a little more difficult to maybe show up in the shape you need to be, and then by the time spring football starts, a little bit too late. So Hakeem's come on here of late too, to where he might be able to help you out here and there if you need to. But Deuce is a guy that maybe for a little bit longer, maybe 10 days, seemingly has been coming on a little stronger. We don't seem to talk enough about Deuce Spann.
Yeah, it'll be interesting how much he plays. I think he will be one of the kick returners, and I do think he'll be on the field, but I don't know how much. Not because he hasn't improved, not because he might end up being a good college receiver. It's just that he's got dudes ahead of him that are really good. It's hard to crack this lineup. But yeah, I think that's a good answer. I think Deuce is a guy that has certainly come along in the last 2 weeks. I think Hakeem is another really good example. I think Hakeem. I mean, he wasn't ready in the spring. He just wasn't ready to compete in the spring, and it was obvious. Now you look out there, and he looks like a Florida State wide receiver is supposed to look, and he is making plays, and he seems to be gaining confidence daily, and you start to see, because I'll be honest, in the spring, and I know he wasn't in the best shape, I'm like, really, with this kid? What? I know he's big, but what else did they see in him? And I'm saying they, like the experts that rated him a 5-star. And then you look at him in this August, and you're like, yeah, there it is. Okay, I see the potential there. He could be a really nice football player, and that's been good to see. So, yeah, I think the last week, some of it because of opportunity, I think Hakeem Williams has really taken a big leap, Yeah.
Well, let's take a couple more here. We're about to hit an hour, but we have like 10 more.
Let's take a couple more.
Maybe we'll get to the ones on the live show later tonight, perhaps, that we weren't able to get to. And we'll just schedule this out a little bit better. My fault. Lightning Noles 7, everybody. Hey, y'all. How do we think the secondary holds up against bunch coverage when opponents like Clemson like to do that sort of stuff? We struggled against it last year. The defense, can they utilize specific tactics such as spies against more mobile quarterbacks like Jaden Daniels? If so, Deloach or does another player take over this role? We kind of talked about that earlier in the show. I'm always afraid of bunch formations. They they do drill that. That's something they do work on. So they will be prepared when it happens. But it's outlaw that. How about that? You want to give the offense more things to do. I think you need to limit the offense. Yeah, bunch formation. 2012 North Carolina State will always haunt me because of that. They certainly have enough physical cornerbacks, I think, to be able to perform well in those situations now, Corey. More so than last year.
And veterans.
Yeah.
Like Cypress hasn't played with this group much, but all these other guys have played with each other. This is at least their second year, some third, fourth year. So that should not be there should not be dudes just running free against the secondary with this much experience and talent, quite frankly. So even bunch formations, they've repped it so much over the last 2 or 3 years that you wouldn't think it would confuse them to no end. But offenses are good, man, and they're hard to stop. And sometimes guys are going to work open. It's just they're finding matchups. Other guys get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars too to exploit matchups, and they're going to make plays. And then for the spying, everybody struggles with mobile quarterbacks. Everybody. And like Jeff pointed out yesterday or Tuesday on Headlines, it's not like the Florida coaches didn't know Jordan Travis could run. They had 2 guys there, and it's like, hey, get him on the ground. Well, he's hard to get on the ground. So mobile quarterbacks just present a unique challenge that is very, very hard to stop. And I don't know how you go. Like if they want to run Jane Daniels 30 times, he's going to run for 160 yards. It's just how mobile quarterbacking works. The risk is he might break a leg. You don't want to run your quarterbacks that much. So he's not a Tebow, and he's not a Cam Newton. He's not 245 pounds. So there is a risk to running him that much. But clearly they didn't think about it last year because he ran like 18 times a game. But I would say Deloach will probably be the guy that spies. They will absolutely 100%, and I'm saying this not having watched 1 second of LSU game prep that Florida State is doing, they will absolutely have a spy.
I should read Noel Backs 55. He says he's going to be in Orlando. I've seen him in Orlando, so I believe him. But let's do 2 bang bangs, and then we'll go out on this one. Tin Man Noel, wake up, long-time listener, first-time poster. Other than Destin and Vandrevius, which freshman, redshirt or true, will contribute the most in September? Do you want to put Hakeem on there now? Have we seen enough in a week or no?
No.
All right, so which freshman other than those 2? I mean, he didn't say offensively. It could be any side of the ball.
What's Byron Turner? Is he a sophomore?
Yeah, he was 2021. Yeah.
Okay, so not him.
No.
Huh. Rodney Hill.
Okay. You want to take any of those defensive backs like KJ Kirkland?
Azarie, does he count?
Yeah, he's a redshirt freshman. Yeah. Okay, good one. Let's see here. Okie Knoll. Hey, guys. Haven't heard anything about Peter Warwick Jr. on the team. How much does it mean to have him as a Knoll, and will he see the field this season? Also, Grant Fielder. Prince's brother, Cecil's son.
Yep.
I don't think so. He had a nice catch earlier on in camp, but I haven't been tracking him much. But it's nice to have Dad around too. But yeah, it's awesome to see that name on a jersey at practice. So
I think he's a DB, right?
Yeah.
And Peter's kid, and he's a walk on, and he's a DB. There's not a lot of playing time to go around, so. If they get big leads, it would be awesome if he was in the game. It'd be awesome if they're up by 40 points in the fourth quarter in some of these games, they let him return a punt. I think that'd be a neat little tip of the cap to one of the all-time greats. But yeah, he won't factor into much playing time. Certainly not this first season.
And I'll go to our guy Derek XEQ004. Last one. Wake up. If you could add 2 players from any college team to this year's team, who would you choose? He picks Marvin Harrison Jr. and Jeremiah Trotter Jr. Not that I don't like what we have, but if we have those 2, we can name our score every week. Who would you choose? Go Noles.
Man, the thing is, you don't have Marvin Harrison Jr. on your team, but you've got.
What would you do if you did?
That's what I'm saying. What does it add to? Because
law of diminishing returns.
You've already got great wide receivers.
Yep.
So I think you're looking more at like an incredible defensive lineman, or an incredible linebacker.
Harold Perkins. He's one.
Yes.
I'll take Harold Perkins from LSU.
Imagine Harold Perkins and Jared Burse on the same team. So
no diminishing returns there. No diminishing returns with those 2 guys.
And the same thing, like Brock Bowers might be the most talented kid in the country.
Oh, man.
He's an incredible tight end. He is an unbelievable football player. But you're pretty darn good at tight end. No, you're not as good as Brock Bowers. But I don't know that the WAR, he adds more to the team than if like a Harold Perkins or a great safety. So, yeah, that's Huh. What do you think? You got anybody in mind? Is there like some great defensive lineman I'm not thinking about? Let me look at the AP preseason All-American team real quick.
Okay. Yeah, I was looking at like safeties. There's a guy from Southern Cal that's the highest graded returner according to PFF, but Kalen Bullock. But I can't speak from experience of watching his game. But yeah, give me Perkins and I don't know. Or is there like some behemoth? Give me Amarius Mims. Just kidding, everybody.
Kidding. There you go. Let's see defense. I got it. It's the guy I was touting last year that they should have gone and gotten in the portal.
No kidding.
The Jerzon Newton from Illinois.
Okay, yeah, he's a
defensive
Florida guy?
tackle.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a Florida kid. He's at Illinois. Go get him. That guy would be incredible.
Perfect. All right, we got a couple more. Maybe we'll either respond to them via the written word on the forums. We love all you, by the way. It's Nolebacks, Candy Nole, Whack169, PCB Noleman, the ones that we weren't able to get to. But again, we do love you. I assure you of it. We'll be back 6 p.m. live. We'll share observations. Both Corey and I will be there live in the flesh at practice. We'll talk about it 6 p.m. live on YouTube, and we'll try to get the rest of these questions in, as we said. Jeff Cameron Show, 1 to 3 o'clock. Stay connected to warchant.com. Subscribe, like. Video interviews, video footage in the morning, so we'll get you covered all day long. That's how we roll on warchant.com. He's Corey, I'm Aslan. Thank you for listening to Wake Up Warchant, presented by the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.